Hi guys, I'm Jeff Trull, and I took the opportunity to come, and when I heard you could do lightning talks, I said, well, maybe I'll come and take this stuff I've been sort of messing around with and talk to people about it and see what they think. I'm not an expert on any of this stuff, but I think if you're out there and you're, ooh, I have a size problem, don't I? Let me fix this. What's the right one? Like, that is the right one?
The 10.4 is the right.
I'm off the screen.
You want 800 by 600.
Oh yeah? Okay.
Then I did 1024, it shuts off the screen.
No, just turn off, or turn off the panel on your laptop.
Which is kind of a hassle. Oh yeah.
That scares me. Okay. Is that better?
No, that's worse.
Okay. Well.
1024 by 768 is regular solution.
Okay.
Just set them both for 2.4.
Okay.
Or is it working now? Actually, it was kind of like it's working.
Okay, try that, see.
We'll just set them both and then see.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it looks terrible on my screen though. Oh God, what's going on?
That did work, but you didn't put the accept. Well, it's not. It switched back.
No, it was looking really bad on my screen. It was kind of messed up.
Yeah, but it was looking great on.
Really. But then I can't see it. Okay. Is it
Yeah, it was fine.
is it too terrible on this one? Is it? I don't know.
I don't know. You tell
Let's
me
see.
on the right side of the slide.
Or just
Jeez.
full screen mode.
Okay. Actually, that's fine probably. Maybe I should. Let's just do that. Is that okay? Okay. All right. Sorry. I was starting to explain that this is something I haven't done before, but just going to show some code. If you're interested in my experiences doing connecting to internet data sources as part of the Qt and KDE software stack, this is just kind of something I did in the particular case of Salesforce.com. So, okay. So this is what I'm going to talk about. First of all, just talk a little bit about why I think Salesforce.com is interesting and why you might, how it is that I went about connecting across the net to their APIs. And then a little bit about how I took that data that I got from them and used it in two different ways, first as table models and then as an Akonadi contact resource. And talk a little bit about how I might improve it in the future, and then see if you have any questions or advice for me after you see some of this design. Okay, so first of all, who am I? I used to do microprocessors. I learned a little bit about Qt from my last company, which is an EDA software company. And I've messed around a little bit with Kpilot. And as a result, seen a little bit about Akonadi and about model view. I got interested in Salesforce.com basically because I'm volunteering at a nonprofit, and they needed data transfer assistance. They have a file maker, if you know what that is. Anyway, they've got this old database they store stuff on, their members and donations and stuff, and they wanted to move it into Salesforce.com. So I started learning about Salesforce.com that way. And I just happened to attend the Qt Dev Days and their Salesforce.com's annual conference called Dreamforce, like within 2 weeks of each other, and I suddenly started thinking, I wonder if there's some way I can put these things together. So that's where I came up with that idea. So why might we be interested in Salesforce? I don't know, do any of you guys know anything about these people? I'd never heard of them, actually, before like 6 months ago or something like that. They're doing really well, I guess, and they've created a lot of hype among like enterprise users. It's on the cloud, you know, and from my experience, it's they've really gotten a lot of people strangely excited about their product. Their conference had 19,000 people at it. It was crazy. So technically speaking, Salesforce.com, from the perspective of a programmer, is really just a bunch of database tables with some programmable GUIs sitting on top of them. It's just a big, relational database system. But by default, what they give you if you sign up for a subscription to their thing is a basic CRM app that you can then modify. Even non-technical or semi-technical users can do, like, make a lot of customizations to it. And you can code. And they have free developer accounts. This is another thing that gets people excited. I think this is the point where I was going to show you guys what this thing looks like. OK, so here's Salesforce.com. This is the free developer account that I have. These tabs across the top here reflect basically different kinds of database tables. This one in particular is showing some sample data they give you when you're going through their tutorial. So these are not real people. But I picked the contacts table for a reason, because I'm going to try to do an Akonadi data resource as well, a contact resource. This shows you a little bit about the point-and-click customization. This is a view of this is a sort of meta view of the contacts table, just showing a bunch of different fields. They all have different types. Yeah, so you can change a lot of stuff there. Going back to my slides. OK, so here's how I connected to Salesforce for this experiment. They've got two APIs. One of them is more like what they call the bulk data API. It's sort of high volume stuff, and it's not as rich in terms of getting information like what tables are there, what fields are in each table, what are the types, all that kind of stuff. Also, SOAP for me was a little bit more comfortable because they give you these files called, I looked at that, I said WSDL? I don't know. I don't know how you pronounce it anyway, WSDL. These files can be compiled or turned into descriptions that you can then do these sort of object-like accesses to. So for me, that made sense. And also, the SOAP interface had more stuff that was helpful for implementing some of these things that I had to implement, which I'll show you a little bit. The options for using their SOAP interface, I was writing in C++, of course. So that sort of limited the possibilities. I found 3. GSOAP was the one I ended up picking. I saw a lot more on the net about that. Some of them, the other 2, it sort of seemed like fewer people were talking about them, and in some cases I couldn't tell if they were really actively maintained anymore. So Salesforce supplies 2 WSDLs, or however you say it. One is the enterprise one, which is specific to your particular instance. It has exactly the tables and the fields and stuff that your particular Salesforce.com has. The other one is called the partner one, which is used for people doing sort of third-party apps for Salesforce. And that's the one, instead of just having automatic access to objects called like, contact and campaign and all that stuff that they have more meta query kinds of things where you spend more time asking, well, what do you have and what type is it? And it adds a little more indirection, but it makes your application more flexible. So that's the one I used. So I used GSOAP and I used their partner WSDL. GSOAP was not a... I had some mixed experiences with it, but fundamentally it worked. So I was able to make all the calls that you're supposed to make to their API. So then, next thing. So I know how to use the API now, and I was able to make all the calls you're supposed to be able to make. So I was thinking about, well, how do I supply this data to applications that need it? I wanted to do this in a sort of a generic way, and there were some specific things that I wanted. I wanted lazy data transfer, meaning that like until the user actually asks for a piece of data, you can store an awful lot of data on these sites. I didn't want to transfer the whole thing at once, but just when people wanted it. I wanted something that would allow me to understand data types. Like I wouldn't actually know at compile time what what the types of the data being stored and the types of the data might be called upon to access was. So I wanted something that was that actually had this sort of runtime type thing, like qvariant, you know. Basically, that's what it seemed like was the right mapping. And also, it would match the structure of the data. So the table model seemed like the right fit. But which one? I started looking at QAbstractTableModel because after Qt Dev Days, it seemed like sort of, you know, I just learned about that, and I said, oh, I need to subclass that and then just call out for all of these things. The problem was, it wasn't a natural fit necessarily to the to what I had to do. Like when you're connecting to a database that's across the net, you need, you know, user IDs and passwords, and in some cases you need to be able to do stuff like, say, get a query and then say, oh, I found, you know, 1,000 hits, and then you might say, okay, give me the first 100 and I'll display them. You know, I needed something that fit that model well. And somebody at Qt Dev Days actually suggested QSqlTableModel. And that fit pretty well. The other thing is Salesforce actually has a sort of a SQL language. It's not exactly. But, you know, QSqlTableModel would going down through the code hierarchy will actually generate a SQL statement that it wants to be executed. So that was a good fit, and I said, well, I could just send that on with the query. So I actually didn't do QSqlTableModel after all, because after first implementing it, I found out that it starts out by, it says, please tell me the names of all of the fields or all of the columns in the table. And you tell it, and it goes, OK, please give me all of those. Or at least that was, I couldn't find any way of getting around that. But QSqlQueryModel, which is inherited by QSqlTableModel, actually you say, you give it, I think you give it actually the query string, you give it the select blah, 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 whatever. And so that means that the control of which columns to look at is yours. So you can reduce the amount of data that you're transferring. And otherwise, everything is good. The only thing is, instead of writing something sort of at the higher levels where you're implementing abstract table model, you're actually going down here and implementing and subclassing QSqlDriver and QSqlResult, which seemed like a sort of an unusual thing to do. But it ended up being, I think, the right choice. So if you go and implement a QSqlDriver, I just want to warn you that the documentation can be a little sketchy. And the best advice I got on an IRC channel was to copy an existing driver, and that worked well. I started actually trying to look at MySQL as a model, but it was really complex, the MySQL driver, and this one seemed to work a little bit better. There's also something called model check. I don't know if you guys know model check. It was tremendously helpful. It's something on the Qt website somewhere. So that helped me get a bunch of bugs out. So I thought I'd just show you guys that running real quick. I'm having linking problems, you can see that. And I've got a little debug output, but hopefully, did I mention GSub performance?
Usually the linking problem with GSub takes more time to link everything.
Ah, you know it. And this is just the same. This is the same as the data you saw earlier, just represented differently. And this is a table view of the QSQL query model that resulted. Okay, so going back to this, then the next thing I tried to do is to make an Akonadi resource. And as you saw earlier, there is a contact table in your Salesforce instance, and it's got all the stuff you need. And also, when I looked at the things I had to implement to make an Akonadi resource, things mapped like really nicely to the sort of operations you could do, because it's basically a big database backend. And there's also a good model to follow. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Ada Nilsson Cavalcanti right there, who is going to give a presentation later this afternoon about the Google data resource, but I use that as my model. Okay, so, and let's look at that running. Magic. Okay, so that worked. It's logged in now. I think there's something you can do to make it like actually go synchronize immediately, but I couldn't figure out that.
One line saying fetch on connect.
Oh, it's that simple?
It's that simple.
Okay. Next time. Okay, so it's thinking for a little bit, and I know that, there we go, it's happy now. And now I look at my address book. Oh, I should have shown you the address book first. Now you're going to think it was there all along. But this is the same information again. And if anyone can tell me how to add more fields here, that would be, because now all you see is the email.
The view menu at the top.
View menu? Modify view. Oh, God, I was looking at settings. Thanks. Okay, well, next time. Anyway, so that's that. And future work, where do I start? I've got all kinds of missing features. I just showed you loading and displaying the stuff. I haven't implemented the stuff on either one of those for modification, strong typing, meaning that like everything's a string, you know, but a lot of things are, for example, dates. I'd love to have something where I go, oh, if I know it's a date and somebody tries to modify it, the little calendar pops up, you know, all that kind of stuff. Efficiency, I thought it would be good in, I don't know if the context resources in Akonadi normally use that parts argument that you get. Like, so I figure people can say, well, I don't want to see their address. I'm just interested in their email or something like that. And then I wouldn't have to go and fetch it downstream or whatever. And front-end versus back-end processing. Actually, when I get retrieve items, I think I just get all of them. Like I get all the data for all of them. I don't wait for retrieve item or whatever to come along. And I also don't take that and put it in like a separate thread that then completes and I can say, okay, I'm done now. It just sort of sits there and everyone waits while I go talk to Salesforce. I was thinking also it'd be really cool to implement, make contacts resources from other social, well, that's not a social networking site, but from social networking sites. And then, I don't know, you know, I know that in Organizer we have to-do lists or task lists. And it didn't seem like there was an associated Akonadi resource for them. Am I wrong? It's just for calendar and mail and...
That's actually work because back in iCal, which was always used for storing events in the good old days, tasks are actually a subcategory of events. So due to the way that iCal is modeled, to us, to-dos are events, which is a bit quirky from a high-level point of view, but that's why there's only like an events resource, and you can do tasks with that.
Oh, okay.
So it's just something that we should probably make explicit. If you want to have a task resource, implement the calendar resource.
Oh, great. Okay.
Historic work.
Well, then it seems like I can do this latter thing here. I don't know if you guys have heard of Basecamp or Remember the Milk, or if you're into the GTD. I was into GTD. But like for my nonprofit work, they've actually got me an account on Basecamp, and I get these to-do list items. So it'd be cool if they popped up on my KDE. We can make it a backend, and I guess we do it through the calendar resource. So
There's already a Remember the Milk library like in KDE space.
no kidding. Oh, that's great.
I was about using it, put the two together, but I don't think it's ever been Akonadized.
Oh.
Right now the library, I think it's embedded, so that you're just in the data engine.
And I wrote a Facebook Akonadi resource a couple of years ago.
You did?
Which is rotting in
No.
program here. Please.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Okay. Well, yeah, maybe we need some place to document all the Is it popular to have these network backends are like a lot of people excited about it or no?
I don't think I've pushed it hard enough to find that out.
I think in the case of Salesforce, this might be something if we're interested in getting into like enterprise desktops or like those guys who walk around, the sales guys are always on their phone or whatever, having this. No, maybe it would help. Okay, and then I guess that's it. So anybody have any questions or yeah, Casey?
Have you published the code?
No, I realize actually everybody here is like already, it's all sort of completed, but I need to do that. First make it into a condition where I won't be embarrassed, and then publish it. Yeah, Stephen?
Just a comment on the parts thing.
Yeah.
Akonadi does have the concept of their parts as well.
Oh, yeah.
So you can just get whatever part you want.
Right, that's what I had in mind. I was wondering if it's actually used by anything, like by whoever's calling the resource to get the items. Like,
the idea is we have like 3 levels of granularity. There's a kind of an overview thing. That's basically what you need to populate a list view. We call that the envelope, again for historic reasons. And then there's the actual body. And then there's everything which includes attachments. So generally you load it in like 3 stages.
Okay.
The rough overview, which is just a few lines, and then all of it if you want to actually look at it, and then everything if you need everything including attachments. Because I know Salesforce does attachments.
that's for mail, right? Or
Anything.
oh,
You just have to basically define what you mean by, this is the envelope part, so that's just the summary information that you give out.
So
it works across all items.
does like address book at this time, does it actually supply requests for different parts depending upon what's being viewed or anything like that?
For KDE, I'm not actually sure.
Not yet.
Okay.
But API-wise, it's there. So the idea is that you only need to, the application only needs to fetch what it needs. But in the case of addresses, generally, I think it fetches bodies, but not attachments, because it's not a lot of data, an individual address book entry, so it's more efficient to just get 20,000 of them in one go, rather than go back and forth and do all the individual few line retrieves. So, but you can at least skip attachments, and if you have really big ones, you can just get some.
Okay. So maybe for, oh, I see. But that would be if like people had images or things like that, like a photo.
You can just attach like a document to,
Okay.
to an event or to a task, and you wouldn't want to get those if they're big right away.
Okay. Well, that's a good tip. And anyone else? Comments? Advice? Yeah.
The organization you were working with, at any point, or did you ever consider, instead of Salesforce, looking at one of the open source CRMs to begin with, like Sugar or something like that?
They did, and I actually kind of wanted them to do that because I felt like I could hack it more. But they picked that one. There's some members there, and they're headquartered like a quarter-mile away also. And I don't know. It's a complicated decision process. I'm just helping. Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah. Okay. Thanks.